Next on Currents News, the number of people missing in California is rising as flames continue to tear through the state. But there is hope tonight. The recount deadline has come and gone in Florida, but it hasn't been met. Tonight, a key Senate race still remains up in the air.
Amazon chose prime real estate, Long Island City, for its next headquarters. But as it prepares to ship employees into Queens, will it affect churches in the Brooklyn diocese? And if so, how? I'm Tim Harfman, and that's coming up.
Plus, grandparents, they love and spoil their grandchildren, but that's not all. A Brooklyn family shows us the role they play in shaping their grandchildren's faith. The news starts right now. Good evening, everyone. I'm Liz Faublas. The amount of missing people in California due to the enormous wildfires is rising drastically. 130 people are now unaccounted for this evening. The death toll stands at 56, but there is a silver lining. The winds are starting to calm down and the temperatures are dropping, signs that the firefight may be turning a corner. Steve Nannis has more.
As firefighters in California make progress on containing several wildfires throughout the state, the focus now shifts to the daunting task of recovery and identifying the victims. In Northern California, the Camp Fire has killed at least 56 people as over 460 rescue workers and officials comb through debris, searching for human remains.
They've already have the capability of beginning to collect samples from the general public or people who suspect that a loved one may have perished in the fire.
It's the deadliest and most destructive wildfire in California history.
A week ago tonight, most of us went to bed not knowing that we would wake up in the morning to a fire that burns 55,000 acres, burns approximately 8,000 structures in the first 12 hours.
And in Southern California, the Woolsey Fire, which started 7 days ago, is more than 57% contained. That fire has destroyed over 500 structures, but with more favorable weather conditions expected, officials are optimistic that they have a handle on this blaze. And on Thursday, yet another new fire in Southern California, the Briggs Fire just north of the Woolsey Fire near Santa Paula. More than 200,000 acres have burned throughout the state over the past week. And more than 300,000 people have been evacuated, as families are left to wonder whether they'll have a home to return to. Steve Nannis, Currents News.
As the blazes continue to burn, Catholic Charities is hard at work helping with recovery efforts. Local agencies are collecting supplies for survivors of the fires. They're focusing on getting them the more crucial items like warm clothes, shoes, and paper products. Catholic Charities of Northern Nevada is sending trucks filled with supplies to the fire zones tomorrow. The Archdiocese of Los Angeles is also helping the fire victims. Archbishop Jose Gomez released a statement saying, quote, "We need to keep praying for those who have lost their lives and their homes and livelihoods, and for all the men and women fighting the fires." The Archdiocese of LA has started a fund to help the victims of these fires. Donations can be made at archla.org/fires. The United States Conference of Catholic Bishops have officially wrapped up their General Assembly without any immediate action on the Church's response to clerical sexual abuse. This morning, U.S. bishops met privately before being dismissed. Cardinal Daniel DiNardo concluded with a vow to combat the sex abuse crisis with the strongest possible actions at the earliest possible moment. Despite not voting on sex abuse items, the Cardinal does not see this gathering as a failure.
Brothers, I opened the meeting on Monday expressing some disappointment, and I end the meeting with hope.
DiNardo says they are ending the three-day assembly on course to investigate ex-Cardinal Theodore McCarrick, ease the process of reporting abuse or misconduct by bishops, and develop an independent and lay-led means of holding bishops accountable. The Chilean cardinal who has been at the forefront of the country's clerical sex abuse crisis is no longer a member of the Council of 9 Cardinals that advises the Pope. Cardinal Francisco Javier Errázuriz made the announcement Wednesday, just as a local prosecutor revealed that he will be summoning the cardinal under charges of covering up abuse. The C9 is a task force created by Pope Francis to reform the government of the church. There are new details tonight about how Washington Post contributor Jamal Khashoggi was killed. The Saudi public prosecutor facing the cameras with an explanation about what happened inside the Saudi consulate in Turkey.
A fight, tying up the victim, and injecting him with an overdose of a sedative that led to his death. We have identified the person who ordered the murder and those who performed it. They are 5 people whose confessions matched.
The prosecutor says he will seek the death penalty for the 5 people who have been accused of killing Khashoggi on October 2nd. In response, the U.S. has announced sanctions against 17 Saudi officials over human rights violations. It was deadline day for officials to recount the midterm election votes in Florida, but Palm Beach County missed the deadline. So a key Senate seat remains up for grabs. Kristen Holmes is in West Palm Beach, Florida, with the story.
All eyes on Florida as the election recount continues. Each of the state's 67 counties racing to meet a Thursday deadline, processing more than 8.2 million votes. And not without roadblocks. Technical problems in Palm Beach County.
Will you meet the deadline today?
The likelihood is slim.
After old machines overheated, causing more than 170,000 votes to be recounted again. The recount triggered last Saturday when both the U.S. Senate race between Republican Governor Rick Scott and Democratic incumbent Senator Bill Nelson and the state's contentious gubernatorial race were within a 0.5% margin. The smallest lead in the Senate race, Scott ahead of Nelson by roughly 12,000 votes. Wednesday, the Senate battle moving from the court of public opinion to the court of law. In a litany of lawsuits, many brought on by Democrats hoping to find more votes.
Bill Nelson is strong as could be. He believes, I believe, he's won a majority of the votes. And as long as they're counted, he will continue being senator from Florida.
But Governor Scott is claiming victory and forging ahead.
Good morning, everyone.
Spending Wednesday on Capitol Hill as senator-elect and appearing alongside Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. In Palm Beach County, Florida, I'm Kristen Holmes.
Hundreds of migrants traveling in large caravans are close to reaching the U.S. border. In one group, there are about 800 Central Americans that left Honduras and traveled through Mexico. Just this week, people on the Mexican side of the border were seen climbing the fence that divides San Diego from Tijuana. Border agents say they are watching the area from the ground, air, and water. Amazon offices are coming to New York. The online retail giant has chosen Long Island City as its home of one of its new headquarters. The move is expected to attract thousands of new people into the neighborhood, but will that be a good thing or a bad thing for Evangelization? Currents News' Tim Harfman has more on that.
Amazon plans to create 25,000 jobs when the shipping giant builds its new headquarters in Long Island City, Queens. The announcement is on Giovanna Varlisi's mind. She grew up in Long Island City and is a parishioner at St. Mary's Church, blocks away from where Amazon will develop.
Amazon coming could be good, it could be bad. Nobody ever knows. The future will let us know.
Long Island City is already an up-and-coming area. Giovanna has volunteered outside of church, evangelizing with new residents by passing out bulletins.
They open inside and they start seeing, okay, this sounds interesting. Let me come by and check it out.
She says those efforts have increased mass attendance. This book, she says, is proof. It's filled with prayer intentions from Catholics and non-Catholics alike.
We got people from everywhere coming in, so our parish sort of became like on the map, we call it.
Now the neighborhood is on the global map thanks to Amazon. Though the company's main headquarters is in Seattle, it will split its second headquarters between Arlington, Virginia and Long Island City. But not everyone is happy about it.
If you look around, man, it's like at least 20 buildings being built in this area, and they're all luxury buildings.
There's a lot that's happening here already. There are other parts of the country that don't necessarily have as many opportunities.
About 80,000 residents live in the neighborhood. That's a 21% jump from 5 years ago, according to Long Island City Partnership, a local development group. The population is expected to surpass 100,000 by 2021. Though not every Amazon employee is expected to live in Long Island City, it will create more traffic. but Giovanna says Amazon may be able to deliver.
It could be good. Yeah. We have more people, and hopefully they'll join us at their parish.
In Long Island City, Queens, Tim Harfman, Currents News.
The first snowfall of the season has hit the tri-state area in a big way. The stormy system brought a taste of winter up the eastern seaboard. A winter weather advisory is in effect through 9 p.m. tonight for parts of northeast Jersey, and a wind advisory is in effect through 3 a.m. Friday for areas near the Jersey Shore. The Department of Sanitation prepared about 700 salt spreaders for the storm. There's a lot more news headed your way. First, Editor-in-Chief Jorge Dominguez joins us with a look at what's coming up in the new edition of the Tablet. Then, a father talks about the tragedy that crushed his soul, his baby son killed at a daycare center. The UN making a move that is sure to bring outrage to many pro-life supporters. And later, many children are finding their faith thanks to their grandparents. It's something that Pope Francis has talked about, and we have a closer look ahead. And an important programming note to share with you. Currents News will be moving to new time slots. Starting Monday, December 3rd, the news will air a half hour earlier at 7 p.m. right here on NET. Reruns will air at 10 p.m. and then the next morning again at 7:30 a.m. So mark your calendars. We'll be right back.
I had sent a couple messages out to family to let them know that Jackson's not going to make it.
A father recounts the day his life changed forever. His baby boy died after a 10-year-old child at a daycare center dropped him and then stomped on his head. Now this father is trying to move forward by remembering the joy his son brought him during their short time together.
I had waited 37 years for my own little baby boy. I was extremely lucky. He was happy, smiles all the time.
This is how Jackson's father, Nate Lytle, wants everyone to remember his son, 6 months old, taken too soon. Lytle is haunted by a heart-stopping scene, an ambulance outside Jackson's Chippewa Falls daycare on October 30th.
And you don't want anybody to be hurt, but maybe selfishly thinking inside you especially don't want it to be your own child.
But it was his son, fighting for his life, later airlifted to St. Paul, his father flying with him, and then the message no parent ever wants to hear.
They had mentioned, what are we going to do if his heart stops? And it caught me completely off guard. I broke down up there. I'm pretty bad. Yeah, it really hit hard.
On the evening of November 1st, his son died. On November 5th, a 10-year-old charged with Jackson's death appeared in Chippewa County Adult Court after claiming that she panicked after dropping the child and brutally beat the baby to stop him from crying. Lytle was there watching the girl sob. He was unsympathetic.
As opposed to seeing it as a 10-year-old girl, I seen it as the person who killed my son.
Amid the pain, one twist of fate gives him solace. The moment she looked into the eyes of Jackson's dad.
It was a split second, and then she buried her head back into her dad's shoulder.
A father comforting his child, something Lytle was not able to do for his badly beaten 6-month-old. Nevertheless, Lytle will always see Jackson smiling and jumping up and down in his favorite jumper. Oh, what a tragedy. That girl is being held on $50,000 bond. Authorities are unsure whether her case will be referred to juvenile court. The United Nations wants abortion and assisted suicide to be a human right. A document by the UN Human Rights Committee states that although state parties may regulate voluntary abortions, such measures must not violate the pregnant woman's rights, placing the mother ahead of the unborn child. The proposed document also says the states must guarantee safe, legal, and effective access to abortion when the life of the woman is at risk. Both Pope Francis and retired Pope Benedict XVI say there is an urgent need to address human rights. The Holy Father said that there has been a breakdown of the idea of a right, and that puts the development of humanity at risk. Benedict says today there are many contradictions in things that are perceived to be so-called rights, such as the right to life and the right to abortion. Bringing the latest news that all Catholics should know is the Tablet newspaper. A brand new edition hitting the presses soon. Editor-in-Chief Jorge Dominguez is here to tell us more about it. Jorge, as always, thank you so much.
Thank you, Liz.
Some sad news to talk about this week's paper about the passing of Monsignor Perfecto Vasquez. We know that he's a historic man, but you knew him as a friend. Talk to us about that.
It was a humbling experience to be his friend. He will come to the office whenever he needed something from us or to cover a story. But at the same time, he was 85. He was supposedly retired. I have never been around a busiest person than him. And more important than that, I have never seen a happier priest than Monsignor Perfecto. He was incredible. And there's a beautiful tribute in the tablet. Tell us about that really quickly. Well, yes, we wanted to do something special for him. He passed away this week, and you can read a lot of interesting details about his life in the tablet, and a lot of beautiful testimonies too. Oh, I'm looking forward to it, Jorge. Thank you. And I'm sorry for the passing of your friend. I hear he was a great man. Thank you, Liz. He was. Supporting the tablet ensures that Catholic journalism will thrive well into the future. These are stories that oftentimes can't be found anywhere else. Subscribe to the tablet right now and save up to 55%. Go to the website, thetablet.org/home55, or call 1-877-883-8356. Still to come on Currents News, the Pope is an advocate of finding God through your grandparents. A Brooklyn grandmother is hearing that call, and we're talking to her next.
So I guess somehow I inspired them enough for both of them have asked me to be their sponsors for confirmation.
The Holy Father calls grandparents a treasure in the family. Well, for one family in Brooklyn, that is especially true. Carolyn O'Hare is vital to the faith of her granddaughters. Currents News' Katie Engesser tells us how.
So cute. Years of memories captured in photos, but though she isn't in every picture, one person witnessed it all.
I remember that. She's the third parent in the family, as we refer to her many times.
Carolyn O'Hare is a staple in her granddaughters' lives.
I thought it was important, not that their family doesn't do a good job, but to be active in their life for religion.
She made sure her granddaughters, no matter how busy their weekend was, always went to church, passing on her faith, a strong relationship and prayer that Pope Francis hopes all grandparents will have with their grandchildren.
The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
At the World Meeting of Families last August, the Holy Father made a plea that families make sure grandparents not be forgotten.
Nessuna famiglia può crescere se dimentica le proprie radici. I bambini non crescono nell'amore se non imparano a comunicare con i loro nonni. Dunque lasciate che il vostro amore affondi radici profonde.
In Brooklyn, that message is being heard.
Grandparents have fallen through the cracks.
Deacon Armand Diaccordo is the spiritual director of Brooklyn's Catholic Grandparents Association, a group that advises grandparents on how to pass on their faith.
Basically, it's to let the grandparents of our diocese know that they have a mission and a vocation to spread their faith to their grandchildren.
Deacon Armand says the best way to spread that faith is to start talking about it.
Oh my God, look how young everybody was.
Carolyn was on hand to answer whatever questions about God the girls posed. And as a Sunday school teacher for almost 15 years, she has plenty of answers.
She'd always bring her work over, or when I was there, she'd always be grading papers, and I'd always be like, oh, what are you doing? And then that's how it kind of started.
Now her granddaughters not only go to Mass willingly, they are even helping her teach others at CCD.
I had some other kids that had volunteered to help out. They weren't as dedicated as Nina and Allie were.
I feel like if she wasn't always pushing for me to go to church and just having her CCD program and me working with her, I feel like I wouldn't be as strong-rooted in my faith as I am now.
And that faith has given them a special relationship.
It's brought us closer together. It's like a special bond we have.
She's just been helping me with a lot.
Katie Engesser, Currents News.
And joining us now is Miss Carolyn. Carolyn, thank you so much for being with us. We just watched this amazing package. We saw your interaction with your beautiful family. Your daughter Dina called you a third parent. Now, I don't have to tell you how important that is, especially now, since all grandparents are really not acknowledged in that fashion. Is this common among your friends? Can they say the same thing?
I don't know how much time they actually spend with their grandchildren. I'm fortunate enough to live close to my daughter. Some of them are active every day. They're picking up the grandchildren from school, as I am. And one particular grandmother, she lost her daughter-in-law. She also is involved during the week, lives with them, and then goes back home on the weekend. So she does homework with them and, you know, everything. But I think their dad takes them to mass on Sundays.
Okay, and but you take it one step further. You have that faith-filled aspect of it in your interaction with your grandchildren. We were able to frame your life in a 2-minute package. Active grandparent, which obviously inspires, but we're dealing with preteens and young children here. What are the challenges?
Well, sometimes the preteens are involved with social media, because I know my granddaughter, the younger one, is not, but her friends are. And you see a lot of that. Some of them go to church, some of them don't go to church. The bullying aspect comes up sometimes with preteens. And the teens. My older granddaughter is still very much involved with going to church. She's on a retreat right now with her school. And I hope the retreat will further the religious aspect to the rest of the girls.
You have some grandchildren that you don't live close by.
True.
So how do you incorporate the faith in their lives? Is it more difficult?
Sometimes they call. In fact, 2 of them are making confirmation. The one lives in Bronxville and the other one who lives in Floral Park in Long Island. And they call and we compare notes on CCD programs. And Nana or Grandma, which they both call me, what is your class up to? Because I teach 4th grade now.
Okay.
And they ask me, what did you do when you had the 6th grade, et cetera, et cetera. So I tell them. So I guess somehow I inspired them enough for both of them have asked me to be their sponsors for confirmation.
Carolyn, Pope Francis is very upfront about the importance of grandparents, which I'm sure you appreciate, but not just with grandchildren, literally as the foundation of a family. Do you think the Catholic Church is doing enough to drive that point home?
I think they can be in the future. Right now they're starting. I think if there's some family masses and grandparents are invited to come along, parents and grandparents, they can influence their grandchildren to go. And he would also, I did read some things in the tablet about he considers grandparents essential in family life.
What advice would you give to other grandparents who might be hesitant to talk to their grandkids about the faith, who feel like they can't really engage with them because of things like social media? You have about 30 seconds. So what's your best advice?
Okay, I say go for it. Speak to your grandchildren. Ask them if they're going to church. And if they're not, why not? Or maybe I can come out for a weekend and I'll take you to church with me and we'll go. Or tell me something that you're learning in school about your religious classes.
Carolyn, more grandparents like you. Thank you so much for joining us. It has been an extreme pleasure.
Thank you.
And you dropped some very important jewels. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Liz.
That is Currents News. I'm Liz Faublas, and just a reminder that Currents News is moving to a new time slot. Starting Monday, December 3rd, the news will air at 7 p.m. And as always, thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.